It's All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. Today we are grateful to welcome Martha Reeves of Martha and the Vandellas. The early Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee spent nearly an hour sharing stories with us, and you can hear it all online at hawaiipublicradio.org. She performs this Friday through Sunday at the Blue Note, 6:30 and 9 each night. Martha is a riveting storyteller, including detailed accounts of the earliest days of Motown, experiences working with Marvin Gaye, James Brown, and numerous other music legends. Along the way, she even sings portions of many songs, too, while explaining the background to classic recordings. We offer some highlights now. May I call you Martha or Miss Reeves? What would you prefer?
Dave, you call me Martha.
Martha, great to have you on. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm happy to be here.
When I look at your history, you're the third of 11 children. And from what I read, we have to thank both, I guess, your grandfather being a reverend and your parents being active in the church choir and loving music. And then, boom, look what we have.
Yeah. We were the generation before TV, so we entertained each other. We used to sit and watch the radio. We'd sit there and look at it while the Lone Ranger, the Shadows, Gabriel Heater, other radio shows like that, a Lone Ranger would come on. Then when Dad felt like it, he would sometimes take his guitar off the wall and he would play. He worked for the city water department. He was a preacher's son, but he played a mean blues guitar. He even woodshed it on occasion with Johnny Hooker, who we actually backed John Lee Hooker on one of his recordings. I can't remember what recording it is. I don't even know if they released it. But I know I had, through my dad's association with John Lee Hooker, an occasion to sing backup. And I imitate Mom a lot because she would sing gospel mostly. I would imitate her when I sang. But they made sure that we could praise and worship with gospel music.
I can see a lot of the combination of their influence in you and the way your music turned out. If you think about that influence of the blues and the gospel and you put it together. And
and being from the South helped too, because I kind of laugh at myself sometimes when I listen to Nowhere to Run. I didn't say nowhere to run. I said nowhere to run. And dancing in the street, I did say dancing in the street. So I think about how country I was, and I did attend Lee Strasberg Theater Institute in Los Angeles when I was recording for MCA, and I did get my speech corrected to a degree. But I'm still a little country girl who came from Alabama, was brought to Detroit at the age of 11 months old. Mom and Dad, having all of us babies, taught us all music, taught us to sing, taught us to fellowship, and whenever things didn't look good, we'd sing our way through it. We'd have our voices lifted, and Mom had a habit of when she was doing her housework, she'd put on B.B. King.
Wow.
And while she was working, we couldn't really talk to her. She didn't want us to interrupt her in her sanctuary with B.B. King. I guess it's because Dad played the blues guitar, and he wasn't there at the moment, so she used B.B. King's music to do her housework. I mean, this is a lovely place in my heart when I think about how we were brought up with music. We had wars the whole time. The first war I remember is the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor. The second memory of war, my granddad, Grover, my mom's dad, was in the Second World War in front of the fireplace down in Alabama. He told a whole lot of stories about the war. And then Jimmy Mack is a song that was recorded when the Korean War was active. The Vietnam War followed it very closely. And Jimmy Mack was written during the Korean War and held in the can, mind you, without being released by Howlin' Doja Howlin' until the Vietnam War sort of settled down. And then here came Jimmy Mack, one of our biggest recordings. I can commemorate the settling of those wars with that song. Someone asked me, who was Jimmy Mack? He's the guy that went to war, and we're waiting on him to come back. I'm singing for all of the women who were left without their old men.
Incredible that you're growing up with all these conflicts happening in the background, and then when you get to the last one you were talking about there, Vietnam, your voice ends up being among the soundtrack for people who are there as the Robin Williams character in Good Morning Vietnam showed.
A lot of guys have shared that with me, that our music kept them going. Not just mine, but the Temptations, the Supremes,
right, everything.
The Sinners, the Four Tops, the Marvelettes. Our music is inspirational music. I love the Motown sound because we have positive messages and there's stories. And each song has a dance routine that goes with it, that you can remember the time of the dance craze and the time of the current events. They gave us history in our songs, and it's just a great thing to know that we were on the right track back then that has lasted all these years, and I'm celebrating like my 58th year of the Motown 60th.
Your songs have been there for a lot of people. You don't have to have been in the service or war to turn around and lean on one of your tunes.
That's right.
Have it pick you up when things are sad, or just remind you of being innocent in the backseat of the car with your parents. In the earliest days of your life, do you have specific memories of the pre-civil rights era that you personally had to go through, meaning how it impacted you and your family?
Yeah, well, when we moved to Detroit, it was for lack of work on Dad's behalf. His oldest brother had moved to Detroit from Alabama and encouraged my dad to move because the cotton gin being invented put a lot of black people out of work because they no longer were picking cotton for a fee. So he came to Detroit, and he got a job with Bud Wheeler, the people that make the wheels for the cars, and worked his way up to a good city job, not being very well educated because he had to quit school and work in the fields. That was part of the lifestyle of a lot of the young men and women in the South. Mom managed to get an 8th grade education, but the education was important in the city. But somehow we're blessed. Dad found him a good job for the city of Detroit, and we continued growing and learning and celebrating and watching the changes that happened, and were able to withstand a house full of kids. And the wife can't work because she's having babies. Dad took on the burden of employing us and educating us and giving us a good living and keeping us involved in music. All of my brothers and sisters are musical. So I've had 3 of my 4 sisters
In the band.
at Vandellas, yes. My mom had taught me to retain lyrics. And she did that dressing my hair or getting me prepared for school or whatever, training me so that I could help her with my other brothers and sisters. She taught me poetry, and I'll always be grateful. Whenever I'm singing, I could still hear my mama saying, "Sing it, baby. Sing it like Mama taught you." I could still hear. She's in heaven. She and Dad are in heaven. But they put a lasting thing in our heart, music. And you don't just wake up singing like it had in that song. That one of these mornings you're going to rise up singing. It ain't like that. You wake up praying, thanking God for waking you up, and you ask him, "Can I sing? Can I be a singer? Please let me sing." And I was asked recently, when was I going to retire? And I didn't really want to tell them not to ever talk to me like that again. I told them I'm a bird, and it's my commission to sing. You don't have to ask the birds to sing. Just open your window. If it's a nice day and it ain't raining, birds will just start chirping. And they don't retire. They just fall off the limb, and I guess that's what I'll do. I'm overwhelmed by how I was able to go to Hitsville, USA, with an invitation, mind you. I didn't just think about it. Somebody gave me a card while I was singing in a nightclub as Martha LaValle and asked me to come to Hitsville, USA.
Mickey Stevenson.
William Mickey Stevenson. That was what's on the card. So when I got to the front desk and I asked Wanda Royster, who was the receptionist at the time, I said, "May I see Mr. Stevenson?" And she said, "You mean Mickey?" I said, "Yeah, that's what you call him." So she buzzed the door, and there he was without any announcement. And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What do you mean? You gave me a card last night and told me to come to this company." He said, "Yeah, but we have auditions every third Thursday. I'm supposed to take this card and make an appointment for an audition. I tell you what, answer this phone. I'll be right back." And that was my beginning at Hitsville, USA. He was gone 2 hours. I took over his office. I started taking messages. I answered the phone correctly because I had a commercial course in high school. I knew how to say, "A&R department, may I help you?" When people asked me, "Who is this?" But I got through the day. He came back in about 3 hours, and I was indispensable. I had a stack of notes. Nobody had worked as a secretary in the artist and repertoire department.
Right,
So I was the first to actually answer the phone and get back with people and make dates and schedule sessions and all that in the first day that I was there.
And it leads to you becoming an original Motown artist who would perform some of the greatest songs of all time, including perhaps the one you're best known for, "Dancing in the Street," co-written by the late, great Marvin Gaye.
I walked in the studio, and I heard Marvin singing, "Calling out around the world, are you ready for a brand new beat, baby? Summer's here and the time is right." I mean, it was a love song to a girl. And he looked over and saw me, and evidently he got some bright idea, and I must have been looking too much in awe of him. He said, "Man, let's try this song on Martha." And I could have fainted then, but I didn't. I had heard him sing it enough to have learned it, but I didn't quite feel it the way he felt it. It brought to mind how we used to dance in my old neighborhood we had cobblestone streets. And because my dad worked for the city of Detroit, and so did Mr. Elliott, who lived across the street. He worked for the bus department. They were city employees, and they were able to get the police to block the streets off for us and let us dance in the street. That's what I was singing about, dancing in the street with the people cooking chicken and playing their record players on each porch. The music wasn't loud. You could hear everybody's music. If you go from door to door, you could hear different music. But we could dance in the street right in front of our house. Boy, what joy. Every Saturday we could do that. So when they asked me to sing it, that's what I felt. I said, can I sing it the way I feel it? And they said, yeah, go ahead. The first take, I nailed it. I had it down. And Lawrence Horn, the engineer, looked over and told William Stevenson, Ivy Hunter, and Marvin Gaye that he hadn't turned the machine on.
Oh.
I'm a one-take artist. I rehearse,
man.
and I'm always ready to sing whenever it's time. And they asked me, could I do it again? So you hear a little fire in there, don't you, when I'm singing? I'm pushing past calm. I'm a little annoyed, but happy to do it again. When they did finally turn the machine on, I nailed it, and that's what you hear when you play the record. That's that energy you hear.
I don't think that people would listen to you, that version, the same way again, both the part of recording it, but also the insight into your perception of what dancing in the street means, the way you described it. For anyone who's grown up now decades with that song, and then suddenly it takes on a whole new light after listening to you, kind of reframe.
How I got that song, how I got it. And if you ask me, I think it's the national anthem. International anthem of Motown music.
There's a power when you speak. I can't even describe it. You have a voice.
It's good talking to you because you're making me remember some things. I'm having fond remembrance here.
I hope you had fun today. I hope this kept your mind interested.
Oh, yeah. I'm still anxious to come to Honolulu, although I've told everything I know, and sing our songs.
We're going to be really grateful to have you.
And come on, see the show.
I will come over and see the show. Maybe I can come back and say hi real quick when I'm in.
That'd be nice.
When you're in town.
Sometimes our announcers come and actually announce us on the stage. Hey, this is Dave Lawrence, HPR. Just the night you come, that'd be your night.
Aw, you're a sweetie pie.
I'm serious. Bless your heart. I look forward to meeting you, Dave.
I look forward to seeing you, too, and meeting you. Be safe, Martha. Thanks for doing this.
Okay, God bless your heart.